Personal boundaries in a relationship are the most unpleasant manipulation when the girl you love tells you, "Stop, this is my personal space, please be kind, dear personal boundaries." Do you understand? Well, there is a desire for such a woman. My response to women is to say right away, don't you really understand that relationships are a deliberate violation of personal boundaries? My dear, we get to know each other, and we don't meet to put up fences and barbed wire and then live like neighbours. No, on the contrary, a relationship implies that we must simply tear down all the barriers between us, and completely. Personal boundaries equal a weapon of attack. In general, the theory of personal boundaries itself appeared in the 60s and 70s. It was invented by psychologists Frederick Perls and Eric Berne. The idea was as simple and adequate as possible: to protect yourself from a stupid boss or from a pesky passenger on the subway. But no one could have imagined that in 2025 women would actively introduce this tool into relationships. That is, what was created solely as a defense against outsiders turned into a weapon of attack on those closest to them. Here's my personal opinion. Even at the dating stage, there should be no boundaries. Dating, the concept of personal boundaries, should not be spoken out loud. After all, a good acquaintance is when you can ask anything you want and they will answer you honestly. It is a willingness to discuss any topic, including the past. And this happens very often. You encounter this when a woman registers on a dating site and writes in the questionnaire, "I'm looking for a serious relationship." Okay, serious, let's say. But you start asking her questions and she says, "You don't ask that when you get to know her, it's personal." Wait, we're getting to know each other just so that this personal, your personal, my personal, becomes common. I can't just use a photo network to guess what your life, views, and past are like. At the same time, it's interesting when everyone knows her dirty past except her husband. The woman herself goes to a psychologist or a witch grandmother. She tells her whole story at once and doesn't even blink. Nothing bothers her. She calmly talks about some of her exotic experiments, injuries, and other things that her boyfriend or husband will never know about. She doesn't tell her grandmother or the psychologist that the past is in the past. But if you ask her how many boyfriends she's had, or if you ask her about her ex or the reasons for the divorce, she immediately says, "This is too personal. I'm not going to talk." That is, she is ready to tell anything to anyone, except the man with whom she plans to allegedly build a relationship or family. Well, that's great. And please note that you and I do not know a single history of relationships in which both partners set personal boundaries at once. It's always one person, and more often than not, one. That is, personal boundaries equal dominance. In fact, personal boundaries are a tool for dominance, not caring about relationships. As it usually happens, you start to see disturbing signals in a relationship from a woman's behavior. And at first you try to talk it out, discuss it, explain it. But in the end, you have to forbid it in order to prevent some kind of catastrophe. And at that moment, your beloved says to you, "Well, you bastard, you're invading again, you bastard." That is, at the first stage, she simply pronounces the concept of personal boundaries and carefully looks at your reaction. If there is no reaction, then the girl turns on these boundaries and gradually begins to build them up. And after a while, it gets to the point where you can't even make remarks to her. You don't have the right. And at the very end, when you just can't stand her antics anymore, you're torn by everything as it is in your soul. You just tell her to her face, and then the woman immediately accuses you of abuse. For such a woman, even the calmest man is a potential aggressor. Sometimes when I met such women in my life, I got the impression that they were even looking for confirmation of this. Well, as if they'd even be happy if they caught you doing something like, "Yeah, well, that's it. You've screwed up, tyrant." Yes, that is, you can be extremely gentle, tactful, and negotiable, but she will still find something to accuse you of. You probably haven't even started a relationship with her yet. She's already built a fortress around herself, ready to hit you with all guns blazing. In fact, When a woman talks about personal boundaries, she gives you an ultimatum. Either you accept my relationship model or you're toxic. This is a primitive speculation wrapped in a therapeutic wrapper. One of the women in the comments, responding to a female comment, will write anyway. So Maxime, you yourself impose your relationship model on a girl and suggest that men do the same. Yes, that's true, but I put the safety of the relationship and its future first. That is, my every action, decision in life, my words, my positions confirm me, and it does not occur to me to put any personal feelings, emotional whims or 7-minute impulses in the first place, so that I sit and worry. Damn, am I happy or not happy? But what do I feel there? Do I love? Do I not love? No, I'm doing what I have to do, and I want to see the same thing from you. But it seems to me that this is a more than understandable, reliable and fair scheme. That is, I evaluate any of my actions and the actions of a woman in terms of the usefulness of the relationship. If what you're doing, darling, is harming a relationship, putting it at risk, then I don't care about personal boundaries, and I don't care who thinks what about it. I will do what I have to do, what needs to be done. So what is a woman trying to protect with the help of personal boundaries? Yes, in most cases, as it turns out, it's not about something good. She's just fighting for her personal comfort, for the right to be selfish inside. Kitchen = place of power, a relationship. Well, have you ever seen a situation in your life where a husband starts cooking dinner for himself, and then his wife bursts in and screams loudly in hysterics? Are you saying this is my personal space? Go away, sit at the table, this is my place of power. I'll cook everything for myself now. Well, we haven't seen that, have we? Although the kitchen is really her space, it's not. Or maybe you've heard a woman say, "Don't buy me this expensive bag. It violates my financial boundaries." Well, that never happens, and probably won't happen. Why? Yes, because personal boundaries are turned on by women when it is necessary to legalize some kind of leftist highs. Well, most often muddy girlfriends, questionable correspondence, strange leisure, entertainment, and perhaps even some men. That is, if we speak directly as it is, without censorship, then borders are included where there is a smell of dermis. And I'll be honest, I don't understand how a man can tolerate all this inside a relationship. When a woman sets up some barriers, some rules, checks your emotions, words for toxicity, decides what is allowed and what is not. Do you know, on a sensory level, what it's a bit like? It's like a security guard in Pyatrochka who is watching closely. Did you steal the crackers or not? But at least you can understand the guard. It's part of his job description to see every customer as a potential thief. But in a relationship, that's definitely not the case. And you are very interested in the detail about personal boundaries. You know, I've been watching women like this for a long time in my life, who hide behind personal boundaries. And I noticed one very interesting thing. When such a woman is in a weak position in a relationship, she suddenly abruptly forgets about her boundaries and begins to drown for maximum transparency. Why? Because if she says that everyone is free to do what they want, to communicate with whomever they want, then she will burst with jealousy in 5 minutes. In a weak position, she needs complete openness and control. Otherwise, the guy there can change or dump her ex there, for example. She can't let that happen, yes. But once she finds herself in a strong position with the same guy, when she is sure that he is running after her, needs her, and does not look at others 100%, and everyone immediately begins to swell those very personal boundaries. That is, now it becomes beneficial for her to gain some personal space from a distance, to leave, to hide her phone. She can already flirt with other guys with the screen down. Yes, all this is my personal space, don't touch it. And the absurdity of the situation is that personal boundaries are turned on by a woman when it is beneficial, and immediately turned off if it is not profitable. Therefore, even the most bitchy woman who is interested in psychology will not dare to include personal boundaries with the man she loves. And if these boundaries have appeared in a relationship, well, it means only one thing: you are a stranger. You're kind of weird. Well, conclusions. It turns out that any girl in a relationship sometimes wants to receive gifts, attention, care, and support. But she's not interested in the subject of my personal boundaries. Or maybe I'm uncomfortable doing all this. Yes, that is, if you are just talking to any woman who is drowning out personal boundaries for the sake of experiment, mirror her behavior, say, "Yes, I recognize your personal boundaries. I respect them, but I also have them." You will immediately notice such sincere bewilderment in the woman's eyes. If you're still at the dating stage, then she probably won't even continue the acquaintance. She'll say, "Oh, you're a hard man. Well, you won't find anyone at this rate. You'll be alone all your life." And if you try to mirror it all in a relationship, she'll probably say, "Listen, do whatever you want." Yes, that is, we see that a woman really doesn't like it when you do the same thing that she does. Therefore, in 98% of cases, words about personal boundaries are psychological nonsense. But in reality, it's just a power struggle, that's all. Yes, there are 2 to 3% of cases when there really is a guy, an inadequate husband, who forbids blinking and breathing. But it's obvious that you just need to get away from inadequacy, and no boundaries will help here. That is, in almost all cases, personal boundaries are just emotional sadism. When the girl you love knocks out the opportunity right in front of your eyes, so that you can see what you're cortisoling from, it's just a fashionable way to legalize bullshit in a relationship. And even if a woman somehow accidentally dropped a word about personal boundaries, she is already standing in a boxing stance and ready to accuse you of violating them. Well, if a woman suddenly turns on personal boundaries in a long-term relationship, it means that you have come too close to the truth. That's why, if you need a powerful antidote to all these female manipulations, a set of lockpicks to her feelings and thoughts, then you can find it all in my private lecture on relationships. The link is right under the video.